Just a little over a week ago, we kicked off Expedition 43, and Commander Terry Virts and his crewmates will be staying at the International Space Station until May to finish that up. And of course, they'll be joined soon by crew members who will be staying a full year, Scott Kelly and Mikhail Kornienko, as well as their Expedition 43 crewmate, Gennady Padalka. With the crew staying a year, we have some interesting opportunities as far as science goes. And here to tell us a little bit more about that today is the Expedition 43 and 44 lead increment scientist, Jorge Staudenmayer. Thanks so much for joining us, Jorge.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brandy. It's my pleasure. Yes, yeah, we're really excited about this mission. It's going to be very interesting for sure.
Well, is it very different having crew members that'll stay a full year? Does that change things for you? How do you tell people about that?
Yes, yeah, it's going to be a very big difference compared to the previous increments where we only had the crew members for about 4 to 6 months. In this particular case, we're going to take advantage of having Kelly and Kornienko there for a year. So we have a suite of experiments, new investigations planned to address how the human body reacts to extended periods of microgravity. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
I think you were telling me that you've got more than 270 experiments in all that are going to be going on during the time, Expedition 43 and 44. So that's a lot to keep up with.
Yes, we're going to be very busy. Yeah, actually, I think this is going to be one of the busiest increments that we've had ever. So and we are actually, it demonstrates the teamwork with all the international partners, because we have like you mentioned, over 270 experiments, including the international partners in Russia, and we have to work together in trying to make everything work.
And that's the experiments that we see the crew members just helping the scientists on the ground with, as well as the ones that you mentioned that look at the effects of spaceflight on the crew members themselves, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so as in addition to those, are you going to be looking at the psychological effects of being away from the Earth so long?
Yes, we have several experiments that look at the habitability of the crew members living in space.
Okay.
Also, how their cognition varies with their longer exposure in space, as well as their reaction when after losing some sleep and being under difficult, stressful situations, especially for 1 year period.
So how do you study that? It seems like it's a little bit, it's not easily quantifiable, I guess.
That's correct. Yes, it's very hard. It's very hard. And in terms of learning how the crew feels, there's an investigation called journals, where the crew members will write down on a regular basis whatever they want to talk about, how they feel, how is their interaction with the ground, interaction with other crew members, so the researchers on the ground can better understand how the crew member is feeling. There's a cognition, there's a Russian investigation that will also try to objectively identify the interactions between the on-orbit crew and the ground and the frequency, and based on that try to assess a psychological and physiological state of mind, health for the crew member.
I know the journals experiment, that one's been going on for a while, and we've done it with all the crew members who've just been there for 6 months. Is the cognition experiment, you mentioned that was a Russian one. Have we participated in it before?
No, this is the first time. This is the first time for us.
So that should be interesting new data for us.
Oh, definitely. Yes, especially it shows also, again, the collaboration between the with the United States, with NASA, and the Russian Space Agency.
Are there a number of experiments that we're working on with the Russians?
Yes, there are several. Another very interesting experiment is called OASIS, and it studies in microgravity. It's going to be sort of like a bubble, and the effects of crystal growth on this bubble, solid state.
Okay.
So it's going to be a very interesting experiment as well. And we have Russian collaboration in another experiment called Fluid Shifts that also studies how the fluids in the body move from the lower body to the upper body, and how that affects the intracranial pressure and the vision, actually, of the crew members. So that's also coming up very soon, and that will be the first time.
Okay, we hear a lot about that. I guess has the partnership that came about as part of having the 1 year crew go up together, has that increased the number of experiments we're working on with the Russians, or?
Yes, it has. Yes, it's increased. We have several in the human research area, as well as the in the combustion experiment as well. Um, and also we're gonna have some support from the Russian crew members in the Rodent Research 2 experiment that's coming up on SpaceX 6.
And that's unusual, right? Usually the U.S. side of the station works on the U.S. and the international partner projects, and then the Russian side of the station works on the Russian experiments for the most part.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So this is again, we're breaking new ground, and we started a couple of increments ago, but now we continue to increase the collaboration with the Russian segment of the Russian Space Agency more and more.
And I guess that's nice because you get the extra data and also the extra hands to help with the science on orbit.
Yes, definitely, and especially with an investigation like Rodent Research 2, which is very crew time intense. We need that additional help. Yeah, crew time intensive. So yeah, it's really good to have that help.
Okay, is just that need more help because of just the taking care of the rodents in space, or?
It includes the taking care of the rodents as well as performing the actual the investigation and the dissections that are going to take place on orbit, and those require a lot of crew time over consecutive days.
I'm sure.
So we want to have. It'll be good to have the Russian crew time helping the Russian crew members.
Well, any other experiments that you'd want to highlight or mention?
There's a really cool experiment going on. Actually, it's the second part of the robotic refueling mission. That's RRM Phase 2.
Sure.
And we should be doing that within the next couple of weeks. And actually, it attempts to refuel satellites on orbit. And these are, more previous generation kind of satellites that they have a limited life. So we would hope to extend the life of these satellites so that we can continue reusing them and save companies on the ground having to the expense of having to launch brand new satellites.
Well, that sounds like something we should definitely watch out for. You said starting in just a few weeks even. So.
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for that. And thank you so much for coming and talking with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Again, this was Jorge Sotomayor, who is the lead increment scientist for Expeditions 43 and 44 on the space station. Thanks so much.